Three questions from Buddhist Shanti. First one, on the need for a personal teacher. Do you think that it's important that one has a personal teacher to guide you in your practice?
Well, one always has a personal teacher, unless, of course, one derives one's information about the Dharma simply from books. And of course that doesn't happen so often nowadays. In the early days of Buddhism in this country, one had almost no other resource except books. But nowadays, if one goes along to a Buddhist center, and especially perhaps to a center of the FWBO, you will be taught meditation by somebody. And you won't be just given a little book, and you'll listen to talks. So there's a personal connection, and that connection will continue. You will become a mitra, but you'll continue to look up to all the members, especially those who are teaching at your particular center. And you may, of course, develop a closer relationship with one or another of them. And you may come to think of that person as occupying the position of a personal mentor for you. I suspect, though, that the questioner is asking for something a little more than that. I do think that there are some people who feel the need to have someone almost holding their hand at every step, every little step even, of the spiritual path. But I think that is not always possible. And I think in the long run, one has to be very dependent on one's own efforts, of course, and on one's own understanding of the Dharma. The Buddha has allowed us a very great deal of freedom in this connection, and perhaps one should refer to the Kalama Sutta in this connection, where the Buddha asks us not to follow simply out of respect for someone senior, not follow because it seems reasonable or logical, but only when it accords with our own understanding and our own actual experience. And just to mention this, by the way, I get the impression that in British Buddhism nowadays, taking a wider view outside but including the FWBO, I think the Kalama Sutta has been rather lost sight of. And I suspect that there are quite a few British Buddhists who haven't even heard of it, which I think would be a great pity. But I think there's a further question from the same person.
If one has not a personal teacher, but you have some years of experience on the path, should you rely on your own intuition and judgment about where effort needs to be applied in your practice, or should you seek guidance?
I think if you've been practicing for a number of years, say 8, 10, 12 years, I think there should have developed within you what I sometimes call the Guru within. You should have a sufficient sense of what the Dharma requires, and what the Dharma requires of you, and therefore what your next step should be. If you're doubtful, I think rather than seeking out one particular, as it were, authoritative person to tell you what you should do next, I think it would be better to discuss the whole matter, to discuss the situation with several of your peers and ask them how they see the situation and what they would advise. I think very often, if the situation is discussed thoroughly and in depth, it becomes clearer. And when it becomes clearer, then it becomes obvious what the next step should be. But perhaps we're sometimes too ready to go to some authoritative source or authoritative person and ask them what we should do. In any case, you have to choose who you consult. And if you choose who you consult, well, in a way you've already decided. Because you usually can tell what sort of advice that person is going to give you.